Look around Silicon Valley right now, and you'll see one guy being treated like the absolute king of the future, Sam Altman. As the CEO of OpenAI, he's the face of ChatGPT, a tech wave that's changing how we work, learn, and live. The media loves to paint him as this untouchable, once-in-a-generation genius who is single-handedly building the next era of humanity. But if you strip away the sleek public relations and actually look at the track record, a completely different story emerges. As it turns out that Sam Altman has never really built a major piece of technology, has never climbed a normal corporate ladder, and has spent his entire adult life playing an incredibly expensive game of musical chairs. To understand how a heavily flawed person with zero formal training in machine learning ended up controlling the most powerful tech on Earth, you have to look at the pattern. It's a loop that has repeated over and over for 20 years. Someone else builds the tech, someone else pays for it, and Sam positions himself right in the center of the narrative to take all the credit. And if you want to find the ultimate architect behind Sam's rise, you have to talk about tech billionaire Peter Thiel. He was Sam's ultimate Silicon Valley mentor and financial backer. When Sam was just starting out, Thiel poured millions into his ventures and helped plug him directly into the absolute highest levels of power. In fact, when Sam's first startup Loopt completely flopped after 7 years of zero product adoption, it was Thiel's network and money that helped rescue him. For normal people, running a company into the ground is a massive failure, but Sam walked away with $5 million in his pocket and a reputation as a visionary founder. Even back then, the red flags were waving. It was recently revealed that Loopt's own management team went to their board twice to try and get Sam fired for deceptive and chaotic behavior. Instead of being blacklisted, Sam used his connections to get handed the presidency of Y Combinator, the most powerful startup incubator in the world. He immediately co-founded a personal venture fund called Hydrazine Capital, once again funded almost entirely by Peter Thiel. Sam didn't build the famous companies that came out of the incubator like Airbnb or Stripe, but he used his presidential position to look at promising new startups, siphon Thiel's money into them, and turn himself into a billionaire. But eventually even that ran out. He was reportedly pushed out of Y Combinator for prioritizing his own personal side projects over the actual company. And that brings us to OpenAI, which Thiel also helped co-found and fund in 2015. It started as a cozy, safe, open source nonprofit to build AI for the benefit of all humanity. But as soon as the technology started getting good, Sam pivoted. He shifted it into a massive commercial powerhouse backed by $13 billion from Microsoft. This massive pivot is exactly what triggered Elon Musk to launch a massive $134 billion lawsuit against Altman, accusing them of completely abandoning their original charitable mission. That legal war just came to a dramatic head. While a jury ultimately dismissed Musk's suit because he waited too long to file it under the statute of limitations, the trial tore open the curtains and forced Sam's closest colleagues to testify under oath. The courtroom receipts were devastating. His co-founders and top executives stepped up to the microphone. Former CTO Mira Marathi testified that Sam was deeply duplicitous, saying one thing to one person and the exact opposite to another. Chief scientist Ilya Sutskever revealed that he had spent months compiling a literal 52-page dossier for the board, detailing how Sam engaged in a consistent pattern of lying, manipulating his staff, and pitting his own executives against each other. But as OpenAI scaled into a high-pressure commercial monster, the cost of Sam's narrative control took a dark and tragic turn. In late 2024, a 26-year-old OpenAI software engineer and prominent copyright whistleblower named Suchir Balaji was found dead in his apartment from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Balaji had left the company to publicly warn the world that OpenAI was breaking the law, and his sudden death sparked intense public scrutiny and claims of foul play from his devastated parents, who pointed to anomalies in the case and a total lack of a suicide note. The tragedy put a massive spotlight on the brutal culture of fear atmosphere inside OpenAI, where employees face immense psychological pressure, aggressive non-disparagement gags, and intense isolation. So why did 95% of the employees sign a letter to bring Sam back when the board originally fired him in 2023? It wasn't because he was a folk hero, it was raw financial survival. These engineers were working brutal 80-hour weeks and were sitting on millions of dollars in private stock options. A massive tender offer cash out event was just months away, and firing the face of the company threatened to crash their stock value and destroy their personal fortunes overnight. They didn't sign for Sam, they signed for their bank accounts. The financial reality behind this whole operation is exactly why an increasing number of critics are calling OpenAI a glorified tech Ponzi scheme. The company boasts historic revenue growth jumping from $2 billion to over $20 billion in record time. But because the raw physics of AI require an astronomical amount of computing power, they are burning cash just as fast. Internal documents show OpenAI expects to lose $14 billion this year alone, with a projected cumulative loss of $115 billion through 2029. The company cannot survive on its own profits. It relies entirely on an endless chain of increasingly massive private funding rounds to keep the lights on and pay off its previous infrastructure debts. It's a valuation bubble built on abstract, quasi-religious promises of a future AGI, and to let early backers cash out their paper wealth, they have to continually bring in new tiers of outside investors to buy them out. It is a massive financial shell game, which is why Sam is currently racing to file for an initial public offering. A $1 trillion IPO is the ultimate escape hatch, allowing Silicon Valley elites to pass the massive financial bag to the public stock market before the bubble pops. And while he runs this financial circus, he's still chasing dystopian side hustles like WorldCoin, a project where he literally flies around the world getting unhoused people, refugees and citizens in developing nations to scan their eyeballs with a metallic orb in exchange for sketchy crypto tokens. It's already been investigated or banned in over 14 countries for massive privacy violations. To make matters worse, Altman is currently fighting an entirely different, deeply disturbing lawsuit in his hometown of St. Louis. His own sister, Annie Altman, has sued him in federal court, accusing him of horrific childhood sexual abuse. Altman has aggressively denied the claims, countersuing her for defamation and calling it financial extortion. It is a chaotic legal mess that recently saw both of his sister's law firms abruptly quit the case over a total breakdown in their relationship. When you stack it all up, the picture is clear. We are being told that artificial general intelligence is going to shape the entire future of our civilization, and yet the guy steering the ship is someone who has proven time and time again, from his early days at Loopt to the secret halls of OpenAI, that when ethical guardrails are put in place to protect people, he will bypass them to get his own way. Silicon Valley has created a double standard where if you make people enough money, rules, ethics, and basic honesty no longer apply to you. We aren't being led by an untouchable tech god, we are being led by a master networker who is entirely unaccountable to the public, and that is exactly why we need to pay attention.